Hey everybody, welcome one and all to Off the Top Rope here, off the Mike Sports Network. I'm Mike Mayer, your host. Here we are, reacting to AEW Dynamite from Sacramento. Unique looking venue. I'll say this right off the bat, and some people are going to get offended at me right away. I thought that this venue kind of came off almost like an indie show because there was a shot of Wheeler Yuta walking in. It almost looked like he was walking into school. It looked like the outskirts of a public library. So it's just like it was weird, man. Like and there was a lot of questions that I had in terms of like uh, a lot of questions that I had in regards to like if this is going to become a regular thing. Like it's really like a strange vibe going on in AEW because these are similar venues that you would see that broadcast that NXT would go to. And NXT is a developmental brand. AEW is not a developmental brand. They're on a major TV network. TNA does venues like this. So it's just like when you're on a major TV network getting paid this amount of money with the roster that you had, that's where where if you come across like looking like an indie show and you do indie show tendency things, then you're gonna my alarm bells are gonna go off. And it says it right in the title, right off the bat. Like this company is limping into a pay-per-view, their first pay-per-view of 2025. I'm I'm not gonna say that I'm not excited for some of these matches I'm interested in, and I think it will be a good show on Sunday night. But yeah, and RM in the chat made a really good point here. Revolution is a good card, but yeah, there's no buzz. There's zero buzz. And you're coming to LA, man. You're coming to crypto.com arena. You're coming to where the Lakers are playing. This is Hollywood, man. Like this is a big time deal. And there's big names across this show and some matches that I'm generally interested in. So like, yeah, that's a great point, RM in the chat. Like, and hit me with your comments and your questions about what we saw tonight, and I will give you guys my run through of the card because it is a very intriguing card. But I think they committed a cardinal sin tonight. Tony Khan did, where I think he telegraphed, in my mind, two finishes because I've watched enough professional wrestling in my life to know booking tendencies, basic wrestling booking 101 with how they got to certain things. So we'll get to all that here again. Like the channel, like, share, subscribe. Here we're getting close to 600, which is insane. I've had this YouTube channel for a long time. I rebranded it as the Sports Network back in July, and here we are. I started with 5 subscribers. Here we are at almost 600. It's unbelievable. And RM, you're just spoiling the whole thing in the chat. Like basically, yes, I do think Moxley and Swerve are gonna win because Jay White basically told you in layman's terms that Jay White basically told you, hey, without saying it, yeah, I'm turning on Cope. Now, another thing that could happen, and I've talked about this here on this channel, is maybe Christian Cage factors in, but he has been nowhere since the ops in his patriarchy thing took place. And Samoa, so interestingly enough, Samoa Joe hasn't been anywhere to be found, which, we need more Samoa Joe in our lives. Cause that guy is just a treasure. But so I don't know how Christian Cage fits into this, but Jay White basically told you with that promo and that meaningless exercise against Max Caster. I understand it's a gimmick, but do we really need to give Jay Wash a 10-second squash match just to, get him on television? Do we need to everything has to be a wrestling match? And I will get into this with some of my main criticisms with why this show just really didn't register. And it came across as lazy. It came across as really lazy, much like a lot of the promotional material has come across as lazy. So yes, I think Moxley is I think Moxley, my big thing is I do think Jay White's screwing Copeland. I don't know how it's going to happen. Maybe he screws him after the match when he wins the championship and Christian comes in and wins. I don't see how that makes any sense considering Jay White and Christian have had beef in the past as well. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just, I don't know. I just don't know how they're going to find a way to get out of this Moxley Death Riders thing, because that match we'll get to, but that was a strange piece of booking that I didn't understand, and I don't know where this is going, but more or less, the Jay White segment kind of revealed to me that Moxley is probably winning and retaining the world title. Swerve Strickland is another one. The finish there at the end, I don't know why the hell you're booking two matches on your pay-per-view and putting them together in two separate teams in a random tag match. Somebody was going to have to take the fall unless there was a screwy finish. I do like that they did protect people, but it's now so blatantly obvious because one, I don't think Swerve Strickland's going to keep on losing. He's a former world champion. All due respect to Ricochet, and Ricochet's done at least a semi-decent job with this annoying heel, chicken shit heel character. Like, it's just, you know, uh, I don't like that they had to just throw these two pay-per-view matches onto a tag, and especially after Swerve and Ricochet got to start the show, had a contract signing in the same night, which is very WWE to have a segment lead into the main event more or less. But even though the main event really had nothing to do with this, but man, like this was kind of a mess, and it's like, I don't like Swerve Strickland taking a pinfall. Yes, he took a belt shot behind the referee's back. Of course, it was Rick Knox because he's a hack. And then, it's just, I don't really understand. Like, I don't really understand like the fundamental thing where like everything has to be a match. Everything has to be a match. And when you do stuff like this, you run the risk of just making people feel insignificant and you keep them at the same level. Like, it's nice to see Brody King get some shine in here. And I love, and I love, shout out to Van Nuys. Like, Van Nuys is not that far from me. The shout out to Van Nuys. It's not that far from Los Angeles. And so Brody King is going to effectively have kind of a home game against Okada. I don't think Brody King will win, but it's nice to see him get a singles little push here, even though this has kind of come out of nowhere just because Buddy Matthews just lost a match. It's not original booking. It's not original booking. You're getting matches for the sake of matches. And yes, I understand that AEW's fan base common critique with somebody like me, a content creator, is, that, oh, these are good matches. They'll be bangers. I don't care. Listen, I'm all about bangers. I am all about great wrestling. People get this twisted with me. I am all about great wrestling. Here's the problem. Here's where you lose me. When you don't have a story or have a connective hook to get me in, then I'm not going to give a shit. And there was a lot of moments on this show tonight, especially these two all-star tags, which they had, and it's coincidental they literally got announced and booked within the hour of an hour of each other, a couple hours before the show. And I'm like, okay, that shows us that you really care. You're just throwing guys who are going to be on the pay-per-view just into the match, so it makes sense. The eight-man tag, like, there was a lot of cool shit. Will Ospreay was in that 8-man tag opener. There's a lot of cool shit that went on in it, but after it felt like empty calories. And then Will Ospreay just went out and got his fucking ass kicked. What the sense was there in that? Because, hey, you don't want to know about telegraphing this. Hey, Will Ospreay probably is going to get to Revolution because they're not going to book. It's Tony Khan. If I give him credit for one thing, he does not go subject to change bullshit. Except for that weird MJF, like, Adam Cole thing from Full Gear, which was one of the worst main events, I think, in the history of this company, where they basically framed it as MJF had a fake knee injury and then ended up facing Jay White, and Adam Cole, who was really hurt, was actually billed to be in that match. Like, Tony Khan does not book shit and not come through with it. So even though Will Ospreay, they did the angle with the neck, Will Ospreay, by the way, where the hell was Kenny Omega? Where the hell was Konosuke Takeshita? I understand, but it's the Don Callis family. So why is Will Ospreay just getting his ass like proverbially kicked? By the way, I have a huge problem with the angle post match that we will get to once we start off the show. Once we sort of get through a lot of my initial thoughts on this show, but Will Ospreay just gets killed. So I fully expect Will Ospreay to win. I already expected Will Ospreay to win at the pay-per-view. He's absolutely winning at the pay-per-view. And, maybe they'll surprise me and go with Kyle Fletcher, but this seems tailor-made set up for a babyface win, which would be stupid because Will Ospreay got dropped on his neck on a chair. But the way that they've booked him, I just don't know if I realistically see, a scenario like that. But okay. So Anyway, let's start from the top here. Um, Ricochet and Swerve Strickland open up the show. Um, Ricochet is wearing a backwards Philadelphia Eagles cap and is wearing a suit. If you've ever watched How I Met Your Mother, and I say this all the time, and my sister's in the other room right now, and she would always laugh at me when I make this joke, or she'll probably just, glare at me. Ricochet looked like the last pick in the NFL draft, or the NBA draft in this case, because he's smaller. And I don't think, but you know what? He was wearing an NFL hat. So yeah, he looked like the last pick in the draft because he's wearing a backwards baseball cap, acting like a geek, just talking about all this thing. And Swerve was just like, dude, sign the contract. Just shut the fuck up, more or less. And so Ricochet, if I'll give him credit for this, he's doing his damnedest to make this work. And in some ways, it is working. He is getting heat. That being said, anybody who says that this was a good promo by him is an idiot. It was cringe. It was not hard. Swerve was just so much more, it felt like such a bigger deal. And in some ways, that's by design. Ricochet is a geek. Ricochet is a chicken shit hill. I understand that. But still, it wasn't a good promo. And frankly, and then really the best part of this whole segment was Swerve at the end signs the contract and basically says, "Hey, you're only going to be relevant. You got your 15 seconds of fame more or less, and also you're only going to be known for your wife who's a ring announcer." So hey, we got that Samantha Irvin reference that everybody wants. And I know people are clamoring for Samantha to go to AEW. I hope she doesn't. I really hope she doesn't. She's great. And, here's the reality. WWE wanted her to be a ring announcer. She didn't want to be a ring announcer. I get it. So if she really wants to be in wrestling, AEW might be the spot for her. She could be a potential manager. And you know what? Maybe that would actually work with Ricochet. And you could have her be a valet. I actually, I'm kind of okay with that. I just don't trust AEW's creative. So either that or Nana turns at the pay-per-view, which, like I said, I think they've telegraphed with the finish to the main event of this show. I think Swerve is winning, getting the robe back, the robe of Jimmy Rave back, which will be sneakily, this feud has actually been okay. Ricochet's not that great of a promo, but he's done enough here to make you somewhat care. But still, it's just hard to, get through him being a promo of some kind. And especially when you're in a suit wearing a backwards baseball cap, looking like you're like the last pick in the draft. You're like you're Mr. Irrelevant. Like, it's just, it doesn't look good. So look, this segment itself was fine. And this feud itself in this match, I'm actually really looking forward to, because these are two guys who I think are immensely talented. But it's just Ricochet. Like, look, it's hard for me to buy into this guy because the character he's playing is really it's really like it's like one of those bullies who kind of just gets away. It's I just don't understand it. So well, hey, apparently Flash over here in the chat wants me to respect Mercedes Moné. Tell her to give away creative. Because let me say this, okay, before I get into this stuff. It's why the problem is I've always respected Mercedes Varnado, who was Sasha Banks in WWE. She's an unbelievable wrestler. And with the right creative plan and people who know how to help her get through certain things and cover up a lot of her deficiencies, she can be a great player. Like, Sasha Banks was cool, and that's why everybody loves Sasha Banks. We're getting CEO chants in the chat, So whatever. Listen, I like Mercedes Varnado, and I think she's great. This character, the CEO, ain't working. It ain't working. And the Momo Mercedes match, listen, RM, they're not going to make you care about it, okay? They're not going to make you care about this goddamn thing. Like, it's just, it's just like, they haven't given you a reason to give a shit because Mercedes is winning. We have no real knowledge of who Momo is unless you're like a Japanese wrestling fan. And this is just another notch on Mercedes' belt. So she could just run through, because she's run through every woman in the AEW women's division, except for Toni Storm. Yeah, and the CEO is just basically Sasha Banks. It's it's a knockoff version of the boss. It really is. Like you guys are on it here in the chat. Like it's really like I just even with the promo that she had, it was cringe. It was like you had like Renee looked uncomfortable even though she's being in character. It's just like what are we talking about here? So we get through that first segment. We get to the first match. It's the All-Star Tag match, which is Will Ospreay, Powerhouse Hobbs, Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy taking on Brian Keith, Mark Davis, Lance Archer, and Brian Cage. I'm not going to go move for move on this thing, but here's the first thing that I need to address. Why in the fuck is Chris Jericho helping Don Callis? Why the fuck is Chris Jericho helping Don Callis? Didn't we go over this a couple years ago where Chris Jericho was aligning with Kenny Omega against Don Callis? So now he's lending Brian Keith and he's lending Big Bill to help out in these certain situations to, set up something. It's like, what are we? It's just, it's lazy. It's lazy. It's so you're basically saying, okay, let's look at this again. So Will Ospreay's in a match on Sunday, and Mark Davis is in there by association. Powerhouse Hobbs not on the pay-per-view, but hey, he's loosely feuding with Don Callis, and he's also there's like loose connections here. Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy, I have no idea what the fuck they were doing in this match. They were just there because hey, they're teaming with the Costco guys over the weekend. Like it's just they're teaming with the Costco guys. So yeah, boom. What a stupid shit, man. And then Brian Keith, I think he's just stuck in a bad spot. He's actually really talented and has really tried to shine as much as he can in bad creative. Lance Archer, weren't Lance Archer and Brian Cage? Weren't those guys like, trying to challenge for the world tag team titles and the Hurt Syndicate, but the Hurt Syndicate distracted them. And now we're getting the Outrunners like 3 months too late with the tag team title shot. So that was weird. And then Mark Davis is just kind of there. So yeah, Will Ospreay wins. There's a lot of cool action. This goes 15 minutes. No heat whatsoever. No story. Just a bunch of dudes like mixed and matched with some guys on the pay-per-view just so they can get on the show and get a spot in. But the ending of this match, like Ospreay wins, and he was really the only reason. These guys are talented, but Ospreay was really the only guy I genuinely cared about in this match. There's no character interest in any of these guys. Like I like Brian Cage. He's just a beefy dude. Same thing with Lance Archer. Like I don't care. I don't care. So after this match ends, they start beating him down. They start beating Ospreay down. Nobody comes down to help him. No Kenny Omega. Takeshita's away from this. They did a video package type up their match, which I get. You want to make it independent from that. But given the story that we told and these guys teamed together, I thought Kenny Omega coming out that maybe could have helped like the build of both matches to this. But yeah, they just keep wailing on Ospreay and, Fletcher comes out. Man, it almost looked like it was in Joy Buttafuoco pants. Like it was like these, like it was polka dotted pants. Like they were weirdly, it was a weird outfit for Kyle Fletcher. So he comes out there, they start beating him with a chair. They hold Ospreay up against the ropes. And here's the thing that just sent me just almost off my chair. They decided where basically it was like, okay, Kyle Fletcher gives the chair to Mark Davis, who is reluctant to swing the chair at Will Ospreay, his friend, and he's now like sort of like in the pocket of he's kind of the reluctant member of the Don Callis family. So I was like, look, wait a minute, I've seen this before. You know what? It's one of the greatest babyface turns in the history of professional wrestling. Sami Zayn whacking Roman Reigns in the back. The only difference here is Mark Davis reluctantly smacks Will Ospreay. Doesn't hit Kyle Fletcher. Everybody thought he was going to hit Kyle Fletcher. So then they do that. And then Kyle Fletcher just hits a brain buster on the chair. I don't know why you're doing this 4 days ahead of a pay-per-view to create, because realistically, there's only two options. And that is Fletcher, or two realistic things that should happen. They won't. One is that Kyle Fletcher, both these have to be that Kyle Fletcher wins. I think Will Ospreay is going to, I think Will Ospreay is going to win. He's one of the faces of the company. And that's just the way that they've built him. So, but to give him this adversity, it gives me John Cena vibes, like from 2008, 2009, Super Cena. And, interestingly enough, John Cena's in the news. And if there's one thing, and I got to give credit to another content creator out here, JD from New York, for basically saying this. And JD, I don't often agree with him. I think sometimes this content can be a little bit too provocative for my taste, but he made a good point. The Cena heel turn, like, has made a lot of what AEW does feel small. And, seeing that, like, they were in a stadium, you're going to this 3,000 seat, like, convention center in Sacramento, like, it just feels small. And then, when you're trying to, it almost looks like you are ripping off one of the better moments in WWE history to try and make your babyface look like the guy who just turned heel. Stay with me, guys. As if you're wrestling fans and you follow the WWE, that's literally what was happening here. It was almost identical to the Sami Zayn thing with a couple things taken out. And then basically what this is setting up to do is make Will Ospreay look like the conquering hero, overcome the adversity, and be able to conquer Kyle Fletcher in the cage. I'm bound to be surprised, and maybe they finally put over a young guy for once and actually give something. But the fact is, Will Ospreay has lost way too much for a top guy lately. And if they wanted us to take him seriously, I think he has to win this match. But the problem is now you've put this crutch on it with this late attack 4 days ahead of the pay-per-view, where it's like it's almost set up for Kyle Fletcher to win this. But I've seen wrestling in babyface booking 101. Like, Fletcher's, to me, Fletcher's absolutely losing. It's another Telegraph thing. But you know what? I'm bound to be surprised because the finish should absolutely be, based off what we saw, Kyle Fletcher should beat Will Ospreay in a cage. That absolutely should happen. But I don't think it will, because I think they're going to be too scared to pull the trigger on Fletcher. They've been too scared to do it the whole time. But yeah, that was a weird 8-man tag. So then we get to, oh God, I don't understand this. I don't understand the Death Riders. The best thing I could say, the Death Riders was not on last on this show, which would have just been, the death of me. And I don't know if I would have been able to wake up for this, because Death Riders just puts me to sleep. So yeah, Wheeler Yuta, God bless him. I think he's a talented guy, but there's nothing to him. Goes 50-50 for 12 minutes with Adam Copeland, who is challenging for the world title on Sunday. What sense is there in that when you have Claudio Castagnoli and Pac in the same group with Jon Moxley? What sense is there in having Wheeler Yuta be the last guy and going 12 minutes when he's been projected as a geek, really since like the latter days of the Blackpool Combat Club before coming into the BCC? They try to make us care about him in this whole BCC to Death Riders transition, but yeah, he is just a scrub. He is projected as a scrub, and yet he goes 50-50 with the guy who's challenging for your world title. Like, listen, there is nothing inherently interesting about Wheeler Yuta, and God bless him. He might be a nice guy. Needs to cut his hair. He looks like me when I was in high school, with long hair over the bangs. I didn't have a beard as big as that, but it's just like he looks like me in high school. And, it's just, I don't know why we keep giving this guy high profile matches. I don't know if Tony's got like a fetish or something weird like that. Or like, really is like, this is the young guy that he wants to push, much like Daniel Garcia. These guys who are bland, like just have nothing in personality. And then you got a guy similar build, similar size with loads of charisma and Ricky Starks. You don't want to do anything with him because he just, he doesn't want to be there, but you still had him under contract. So it's just like, I don't know what is going on here. And then so Adam Copeland, we think that Adam's going to just, destroy him. It goes for 11, 12 minutes. And then after the match, Adam Copeland shakes his hand and says, yeah, this is what respect feels like. And then Jon Moxley comes in like a freaking, teenager losing his shit over, he didn't get his allowance or something. And he just throwing this temper tantrum. And he's saying, why'd you shake his hand? Why'd you shake his hand? And Yuta just walks out on him. Jon Moxley cuts a promo. I tuned it out because I used to like Jon Moxley promos, but with all this gibberish that he does, I think one thing I picked up from it is that, you've got my full attention for the pay-per-view in Los Angeles. But listen, my gut feeling is this is going to main event. There was a segment on this show that I really did enjoy near the end that makes me think maybe this doesn't main event. And I know that might be a controversial thing for any AEW fans here. But yeah, get at me in the chat. We'll get to some Revolution picks here in a little bit. Okay, so moving down the card here for a second. So yeah, John Moxley just loses his shit, and it's just, I don't understand it. We get a really cool looking Outrunners video package. I love the way that these guys are portrayed, but they're losing. They're not beating the Hurt Syndicate, and I don't understand. I don't understand why they didn't pull the trigger on these guys sooner. They should have. To be honest with you, as much as I love Private Party, and it was a cool moment for them to get it, the Outrunners should have been the ones to beat the Young Bucks. That should have happened. Like Tony Khan, this is quintessential him. He goes by a formula for him, and he doesn't have a feel for the audience. He's doing whatever he wants, and now a team like the Outrunners that were organically over, and I got killed for it on the internet for criticizing them because I didn't understand their gimmick, and then all of a sudden I started to watch them a little bit more. I'm like, damn, these guys are good. These guys are entertaining, and now they're getting thrown in as like sort of like a took advantage of an opportunity when we were already building the murder machines. Uh, Lance Archer and Brian Cage, and that doesn't go anywhere, and so now you have them facing the Hurt Syndicate, who've literally defended the titles like once already, and they just won the tag team title. So I don't think the Outrunners are winning. So what's the point of that match? But the video package and the production is cool. MJF and Hangman had a thing rolling through the whole thing. And it started out in the streets. It went into the arena, and then MJF has a decoy that Hangman nails down. And listen, I think that this is the match I'm most looking forward to. But in the last couple weeks, they've done really just quintessential AEW weirdo shit that this is the stuff that just drives me crazy about this place. So they're brawling for a while. MJF gets the upper hand with a low blow, and MJF gets out lighter fluid, and he dribbles lighter fluid over Hangman Adam Page, and is about to light him on fire before a bunch of security people get to him. And I know some people will say, well, there's a story to this because Hangman burnt down Swerve's house. Guys, you didn't need to add more heat to this, literally, by just trying to light a dude on fire. I don't understand this company's like obsession with arson and just lighting dudes on fire. Like, I don't understand. It's happened multiple times in the last handful of months. And it almost happened here to get more heat on a few that didn't really need it. Like, you could have had a pull apart brawl here and, done whatever they did in the street, and just leave it at that. But yeah, it's just this, like, listen, this is the match that I'm most looking forward to. But yeah, there's been some production issues. There's been some execution issues that have kind of diminished the feel of this match. MJF, to me, even though he can project to be, he's kind of become a caricature. But look, Hangman needs to win that match. We'll talk about it in a little bit in terms of what I think should happen, along the lines down the road in terms of that match, specifically at Revolution. But yeah, they haven't done a really good job after, this is the one match really that, outside of rematches, it's a genuine dream match. We haven't really seen these two guys go at one another for 5-6 years. They've stayed pretty apart from each other. But yeah, there's been some production botches and some execution things with the way that they did this. Like I said, I am not one, maybe this is for indie schmucks and whatever. I'm not for using fire in, wrestling matches and feuds. I think we've gotten past the time of Inferno matches. I just don't think it's necessary. I think there's a lot better ways to be safer, and not have to scar your body and do something stupid. And this was just dumb, even insinuating it. And like I said, I get the argument that, AEW schmucks will come at me and basically say, well, like I said, it's a tie into, yeah, you burned a man's house down. Guys, we never even really got a payoff for that, first of all, even though it's still in his graphic. Secondly, burning another man's house who has no relevance to the story and just trying to insinuate burning a guy on fire because you don't like him, that's insane, dude. I know people are trying to rationalize the John Cena heel turn, but that didn't resort to fire. Hey, beat a guy with a watch in with a couple belt shots. It's yeah, it was an excessive beatdown, but there are lengths that you go to get heat. And that's not one of them, in my opinion. So yeah, it's just, the feud has kind of cooled off for me. I really don't like it. I think it's going to be a good match. But yeah, it's kind of cooled off a little bit. It's just been, that was a little bit of a weird situation. So then we get the filmmaker for Queen of the Ring, and they bring in Tony Storm, who speculates that a nude scene was left out of the movie, and the filmmaker said it's PG. Tony Storm's a delight. Tony Storm is just a delight. But then this is where AEW promotional booking just loses my mind. So the match that next takes place is, the leftovers for one of the most terribly executed and produced segments and one of the biggest microcosms of where AEW is. You had Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford taking on Chris Statlander and Thunder Rosa, that whole chair botch from a couple of weeks ago. So this match is sponsored by Queen of the Ring. AEW has multiple talent on their roster that are in this movie. None of them were in this match. None of them. What great promotion. Also, one person who's in this and has a decent role in it is Camille. And we haven't seen her in months. We haven't seen her since like October, November. She's been outcasted off TV. Megan Bayne is basically getting the push that Camille should have gotten and didn't. But Camille just got booked into oblivion, and it just, like, I didn't understand this. Like, look, Megan Bayne's looked impressive. And this was a quick little match. Thunder Rosa taking another pin. Like, God bless her. Like, I don't know what Thunder Rosa is still doing there. She's great. But yeah, Megan Bayne was the right person to get the pin here. But yeah, this women's division is just in the tank. Because then right on cue, we get to the CEO, Mercedes Moné. We talked about it earlier. And basically, brief promo to talk about Momo Watanabe. Why do we care about this match? The only reason this is on the pay-per-view is to give Mercedes a match for a pay-per-view. I listen, I'm not trying to disrespect Momo. I think I might have seen one match that she might have done in AEW. I think she might have done one. But I don't know enough about her. And they did one hype package, but it's just like, there's nothing to care about here. And also, when you know that when you book somebody from another company for a women's championship, and Mercedes is carrying around but Mercedes ain't losing. Are you kidding me? Like, if anything, what this match has done is at least put the wheels in motion for Athena to potentially be the one to unseat Mercedes. And Athena is from Texas, where All In is taking place. So Billy Stark's being inserted into this. At least that was a positive out of this. But my God, this Mercedes promo was cringe. Like, it's almost like she kind of knows that she is just stealing money from Tony Khan and just intentionally being bad. Because at what point does she realize that this isn't entertaining? Like, for God's sake, she acts for a living. She was in The Mandalorian. I didn't see The Mandalorian. You guys can tell me if she had a featured role. I don't really even know about that. But this is bad. Like, this is really bad. And I knew she wasn't the greatest promo, but she has gotten absolutely positively exposed. Like, it looked like Renee Paquette was absolutely visibly uncomfortable doing this because she was trying to feed her lines or whatever. It was weird. It was really weird. And it's like, did we really need to get that? Like, and then also, Mercedes saying, yeah, hey, Serena Deeb's going to face Momo on Collision. I'll be there. Who cares? Momo's going to get the win. She's going to lose at the pay-per-view, and we're just going to move forward. This is just textbook. I mean, I know a lot of people, when people go over consistently, make the joke about, oh, it's being like Hogan, brother. Like, literally, this is Hulk Hogan in the women's division. They gave her way too much power. She has no idea what she is doing. She got her own writer, and all the stuff that they've given her is crap. The song is crap. Like, I'm sorry. I have always been a big Sasha Banks proponent. I wanted her to go back to WWE, and more power to her to get this high profile slot and earn her payday and be the face of a division. But it is very clear, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, Vince McMahon was right about Sasha Banks. He was right about her. He was absolutely right about her, because in no way would anybody anywhere think that this is tolerable when your top champion is just getting more TV time, more face time than anybody else. And it's like is the option where people will just go take a pee or go get a beverage or something. Like, nobody cares about Mercedes Moné. When she is in the ring, it is fine. But even then, she's wrestling a bunch of nobodies, and there's no hope in hell of any of them beating her outside of Chris Statlander, really. Because Willow, we knew, was losing at the start of this thing. We knew Britt Baker wasn't beating her, and that was a shitty feud. I could keep going down the list. Hikaru Shida, whatever. Like any number of these people, nobody was beating her. Nobody was beating her, and it's sad. It really is, because I think the world of this woman in terms of what she's done to get women's wrestling to where it is. But this is just, it's almost reading like she just doesn't care and she's content cashing a paycheck. And you know what? More power to you. I'm all about people getting the bag, but it's like, if you want to talk to this all also falls at Tony Khan. It's like, listen, if you want people to take you seriously, take some ownership here. So this falls at him too. And it's just like, that's why the women's division's not in a great spot. So then Max Caster comes out. He cuts this promo. He tries to start this chant, "Let's go, Max. You're the best wrestler alive." It's like way too many syllables. Out comes Jay White for whatever reason. Jay White wins in 30 seconds, hits a Blade Runner, and it was just like, what the fuck are we doing? And so the main reveal from this is like, Jay White says, "I'm going to be here to crown the new AEW champion in Cope." And listen, I've seen enough wrestling in my day to know Jay White's turning. Jay White's screwing over Adam Copeland. I don't know how it's going to look. Listen, if it gets us out of the Death Riders, it's a good thing. But as I've said, my main issue with, just getting out of the Death Riders is just, I don't get it. Also, thanks RM for bringing this up. I'm glad. Let me get to this real fast. So yeah, Max Caster's literally been the only one outside of this, acclaimed split that's really done anything. And I think Max is really talented, but he's gotten kind of gone the other way. Like, I loved his raps but some of this heel shit is not working. And Anthony Bowens, I think, deserves a singles push. So yeah, great point there. I listen, I don't know what the fuck they're doing really with a lot of people here. Then we get the sit down interview with, which to me was the best thing on this goddamn show. Mariah May and Tony Storm, taped vignette. Mariah acting really emotional. And Tony being very, very serious in her Hollywood gimmick. Listen, I didn't think the Mariah May, title run did a lot of good for anybody. And I think this division really missed Tony Storm. But man, this was great. To me, this was probably by a country mile one of the best things I saw on this show. And honestly, it's one of the best things that I've seen in this entire build to get to this show, Revolution. Really since the Australia show last month. Like, really in the last few weeks, this is one of the best things that I've seen on television. And credit to Tony Storm, credit to Renee Paquette for moderating, credit to Mariah May for, showing vulnerability even as a heel. Like, this was great stuff. This was really great stuff. And then, the main event, whatever, like, Brody King gets some nice showing, but then ultimately just, it ends up being, a little schmoz at the end with a belt shot from Ricochet when the referee is distracted because Okada tried to introduce it. And Swerve gets pinned again by Ricochet in a crazy way. Listen, like I said, the biggest problem with when you do stuff like this and you put contenders or participants in pay-per-view matches and you just throw them into a random tag match as your main event, somebody's got to lose unless you're going to do a double count out or some weird finish. And they didn't do that. They went for the dusty finish, and I guess it's a dusty finish. I'll have to refresh in my vocabulary on that. But it's a finish where you get a belt shot. Rick Knox, being the hack that he is, doesn't see it. Ricochet steals another win. Look, Ricochet's not beating Swerve again. That's not happening. Swerve is winning, and if that's the indication of where they're going because it's a number one contender match, that means Jon Moxley is probably walking out of there with the world title. Or it's going to be Christian Cage. It's good. It's going to be a heel champion that walks out. It's not going to be Adam Copeland. I can tell you with 100% certainty, as maybe Adam Copeland does win it, but he is not walking out of Revolution with the championship. Or maybe they surprise me and they somehow do this random cash in on a Dynamite. I think they're going to want to do some WCW shit. And if somebody wins, they're going to have a cash in. So I don't know how it's going to look. To me, I think the best solution here, even though it's not a popular opinion, is for Moxley to just win. Because what story is there going to be coming out of this if you say have Swerve win and then or because look, it's not going to be Ricochet. So if you have Swerve win, he's got to face a heel. So it's either going to be Moxley or it's going to be Christian Cage. We've already seen the Christian Cage Swerve match. We saw that last year. And Swerve beat him clean. Yes, Christian would be the champion, but why go back to that match? And I've said this on my channel. I don't like 50-year-old men holding championships. I just don't. So, okay, so that's Dynamite. Let's get through really quickly and go ahead and shoot me comments, super chats in here as well. Appreciate all the love and support. Very active, lively bunch y'all are tonight. Let's get through Revolution here real quick. So, man, this celebrity match, which is just a whole bunch of dog shit here. Big Boom AJ teaming up with Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe to take on Johnny TV, the former John Morrison, and Mansoor and Mace, MXM, the MXM collection. This is on the 0 Hour show. I have no interest in this. I think Big Boom AJ being protected in this, and I think part of the reason maybe why they did this is because he did break his foot. And Orange Cassidy, look, okay, let me say this. And I've said this on a couple other videos. Orange Cassidy was in the world title match a couple times recently, and I like Orange Cassidy more than most people. Him being in this match is a joke. Mark Briscoe, who I think is a national treasure, is almost like, kind of the hick version of R-Truth. Like he's like the hick version of R-Truth, like the farmer boy version of him. And I love Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe can work too. R-Truth is older and he could still work, but not like nearly like the work rate that Mark Briscoe is capable of. And, whatever, like, it's just, but the point is, the baby faces are going to win. The baby faces are going to win. This is obvious. Big Boom AJ is probably going to get there's going to probably be some shit with, maybe they'll bring back the Rizzler. Listen, the fact is, and I had a separate video come out earlier today about this. Big Boom AJ has been doing more promotion for the show than anybody. And that's a problem. That can't be your top promoter in this whole thing. That shouldn't be the way this thing goes. So, it's just, for Orange Cassidy, I hate it because listen, whether you love him or you hate him, this guy was in the world title match twice last year. He was in the main event of World's End. He was in the main event of Full Gear last year. And, if you didn't take him seriously, like he goes from world title picture to immediately going back to the lower mid card, and he's teaming up with a TikTok celebrity. What the fuck are we doing? And John Morrison, I think John Morrison is great. It didn't work out in WWE twice, but now he's casting this weird Johnny TV character, which has done absolutely nothing. He's been outcasted to Ring of Honor that nobody watches. And this is what we got. And I actually kind of like the MXM guys, but they've kind of been goofy and stupid in this whole thing where they haven't been booked very well. At least with the Maximum Male Models that they did in WWE, there's at least some sort of direction. There's no real direction here. They're just a couple of guys who come out and do like Derek Zoolander, and they do Zoolander shit. Like it's not like you need some substance to these characters. That's my problem. There's no depth to any of this. It's just a bunch of comedy bullshit. And, Orange Cassidy can get away with it because he wrestles really well. But I don't care about this match on the 0 Hour pre-show. Kazuchika Okada, Brody King. Okada's winning. Nice to see Brody King get an opportunity here. Him goes back, literally the Hounds of Hell getting back-to-back matches against Okada in their home country or their hometown. Brody King from Van Nuys, that's not far from Los Angeles, where they're going to be holding the event. Brody King, a local guy, came up here. Like I've known about Brody's work. Guy hits hard. A lot of very over. I hope he does well in this match, but Okada's going to win. Because we all know that the point that we're getting to is we're going to get to Okada Omega in a unification match at All In. That's what we're getting to. So that's where we're going to. Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher. I kind of already spoiled how I feel about this. I think that Ospreay is going to win. I think Fletcher should win because of what they told you and the injury that they added on and they tacked on to Will Ospreay with that brain buster that they landed on the chair with that beat down that didn't end. So I think Ospreay is going to win. He's lost way too much, but still, this is a problem of, the problem is it's just like, it's not, you've got to put over new talent and they don't care. Like they want to they pay all their established stars and it's just this 50-50 back and forth shit. Now you're in a predicament doing the third match between these guys because you did it in you did it in the Continental Classic multiple times. You did it at Full Gear where Fletcher won. So we get this steel cage match, and Ospreay's compromised. This is like the John Cena booking strategy 101. I've seen this before. Ospreay, I think, is going to win. MJF and Hangman Adam Page. I have Hangman winning this. I think he needs it more. I think he's going to be the savior of AEW. I think he's really one of the only people in this company that this could save. But yeah, this match is significantly dwindled in interest. These guys are so fucking great that I'll still be genuinely most interested in this match. But yeah, some of the booking choices and some of the production on some of these segments that have happened in the last couple weeks have just really turned me off. Swerve versus Ricochet, number one contendership for the world title. I got Swerve winning just based off logic. He's taken two cheap losses to Ricochet in the recent weeks. And I just can't see Ricochet beating him again. Also, I just don't buy into Ricochet. And also Ricochet winning would imply, hey, it seems like we're going to have a babyface champion. And if it's Adam Copeland, I just don't logistically see how that's going to work. With Ricochet potentially moving in to take on Copeland. I just don't see a scenario with the way that they've laid stuff out that Adam Copeland is going to walk out of this being the world champion. Maybe he is for a hot second, but I just don't see that. So by process of elimination of what we've seen, Swerve is going to win. Mercedes is going to be Momo. It should be a good enough match, but I have no reason to care about it because I know Mercedes is going to win. Hurt Syndicate will beat the Outrunners. The Outrunners will have a good showing. But I don't understand how they couldn't have capitalized on these guys sooner, and they immediately feed them to the Hurt Syndicate as mostly a joke. Tony Storm, Mariah May. Here's my hot take, and I've said this on the channel. And, that segment near the end of the show really hammered it home for me. If you're not confident in how you're going to finish with the world title, I would absolutely have Tony Storm, Mariah May main event this show. It's going to be a Falls Count Anywhere Hollywood ending match. It's in Hollywood. It makes a lot of sense. Tony Storm's fucking great. She deserves a main event, level match on a pay-per-view because she didn't get that in Australia. Mariah May's been really good. I think she could deliver a main event level match. I just don't know if they're going to have the balls to do this. I think the world title will probably main event because that's the safe option. But if they really want to make a statement, I would go Tony Storm, Mariah May. So Takeshita and Omega, I think Omega is going to get his win back here. He's going to win the international championship from Takeshita. Takeshita's had a nice run, but this is setting up for a unification match with the international title and the continental title, which is the most irrelevant title in wrestling. So I got Kenny Omega winning this match. This will be awesome. These two guys are going to friggin' kill each other. I love Takeshita, and I think Kenny Omega is just like one of the most naturally gifted wrestlers I've ever seen. Everything is effortless for him. And then Jon Moxley versus Cope for the AEW World Championship. I will go with the obvious choice here, and I will say that Jon Moxley retains the AEW World title. Jon Moxley will retain the AEW World title over Adam Copeland because Jay White screws him over. It seems like we're going to get a Death Rider schmaz, and then Jay White just screws him over for whatever reasons, whatever motivations. Hey, if he wants to join the Death Riders, which doesn't make any sense, sure, why the hell not? Because, that would be very WCW. I don't think that Cope winning does really any good. That's just my blunt opinion. Here's the thing. I'm all for getting this Death Riders thing to the end. But here's the problem. If you get it to the end, what's your next destination? Because to me, if you want a destination to matter, then you gotta have something in mind. And to me, Hangman being the guy to conquer this is the most logical thing. Jack Perry helping Mox is a very interesting idea. RM, thanks for another chat there. But yeah, maybe because he said he's a nice kid. I mean, maybe. I mean, why should I give a shit about Jack Perry? I mean, all due respect, but hey, Tony Khan loves himself some Jack Perry, even though he's the reason CM Punk is in another place. So, big overriding point before I go, because I've been going at this for almost an hour, but you guys have been really lively, and we've kind of just been going back and forth, and I've enjoyed this. So, but yeah, thanks for being active here. It's really been great to do this, and hopefully I'm going to do this a little bit more moving forward. The biggest thing for me is with what happened on Saturday night with John Cena turning heel. I think that sent shockwaves through the industry. And I just don't know if what happened on Saturday and how because I know AEW's got a great reputation with delivering great pay-per-views. I don't know what they could possibly have in their arsenal that is not going to make them look like an amateur company compared to what WWE just did. Because WWE just did something that we may not see for another 25, 30 years. A seismic industry shifting heel turn. Like, you don't have moments like that in wrestling. Like, these people always talk about the 96 heel turn of Hulk Hogan. Like, this is our generation's version of that. Because John Cena is basically Hulk Hogan in terms of what he represented for the industry and being a role model and everything. And he threw it all the way. He sold out, and it's all to beat up Cody Rhodes and win his 17th championship. And he aligns himself with The Rock because The Rock hates Cody Rhodes because Cody Rhodes took away his dream match with his cousin. But, you know, seeing an angle like that on a show as great as Elimination Chamber, and then you go to this, you've got the Costco guys on this, you've got two ex-WWE guys fighting over the world title, you've got one of the great standard bearers of your women's division over there now leading a dead women's division in this company. Like, it's just, there's talent here. Like, and there's matches on this show that I'm really looking forward to, but none of them are going to even remotely register on the Richter scale quite like what happened at Elimination Chamber. And some people will come at me and yell at me and say, Mike, you're a fucking idiot. Like, there were only 4 matches on the show. Guys, let me be clear. Okay. I understand. 3.5 hour show. It took forever. 4 matches. I get it. There was 2 Elimination Chambers that took place on that show. Revolution on Sunday has 9 matches, including a 10th one on the 0 hour show, which is the Big Boom AJ match. 9 matches, and it's gonna be a 4-hour show. The problem is, like, at least, you know, WWE lets their shit breathe. Because there was a lot of, because the main, if your main criticism, hey, WWE only had 4 matches, there was a lot that went on at Elimination Chamber. You had Jade Cargill coming back and destroying Naomi before the match even starts. An amazing women's elimination chamber. So you got to cool off after that. You get Trish Stratus in her hometown teaming with the women's champion, and the women's champion getting a nice win. You get the men's you get the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn match, which was basically an AEW match that was just, you know, 2 guys who just love to beat the shit out of each other. It was basically like a, you know, much more glammed up AEW match, or Ring of Honor style match. And it was fucking awesome. It's what happens when you have smart people and people who just, and it's just like, you know, you stack your shows and you know, you have all, they try to cash in on their bang for the buck. Good point. Like, that's really what they do. And sometimes I think Tony Khan is so focused on the wrong things. Like, look, we want certain things. Yes, we want good wrestling, but we also want good storytelling, and we don't need to have matches jammed after matches and then, you know, have a 30-second break. We can't even go get a beer or go to the bathroom or anything. And it's just on to the next match. It's like, we need time to breathe. Yes, I think that things are true. WWE wait times, even though some of the Twitter accounts on the internet just fucking just do whatever the hell the internet accounts are timing things out, which I think is lame. But, you know, the main thing is, like, I think WWE needs to figure out how to shorten up these wait times a little bit, but they've got it the right way. They're making money off of these advertisements in between, and it's giving fans chances to breathe for all of these big moments. Like, you had Randy Orton returning after the Kevin Owens match, and then, hey, right. Like, yeah, if it were to AEW, they would have gone right into the men's elimination chamber. Everybody's still, like, really on an emotional high. It's like, yeah, you can't be all high strung the whole time. Otherwise people are going to tire out before the end of the night. That's just the biggest thing. And that's why, you know, I've always been pro, like, less is more, or quality over quantity, because you saw it at, like, those WrestleManias that Vince was doing, like, before COVID. They were like 6-7 hour shows, and it was ridiculous. Like, you can't just jam, like, so many freaking matches into a show and just, you know, have it stretch out for so long. And, you know, AEW just has this compulsive need to just, like, you know, throw every single possible match. And, you know, when they were only doing 4 pay-per-views a year, I kind of got it. But now they're doing like 9. They're doing 9 pay-per-views. Like, you don't need to have 9 matches every show. You don't. Like, I understand you got to load, like, 6 or 7 to me is like the perfect number. And 5 I can deal with. I understand Triple H likes to do a little bit more like storytelling, and obviously, the ad breaks factor in. So the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber ran a little bit long. And also, let's get real. There was really 5 big things that happened on this show, including the post, the whole Cena, Cody, and Rock segment at the end. So the main thing, like I said, is just AEW kind of comes across as the minor leagues, and it's just like from the building that they were in, which is like it's great. Hey, you had a lively crowd, a lot of energy in Sacramento. I give them credit, but look, NXT could run that building like tomorrow, and they probably would do it better. Like this is literally Cincinnati. They did the same building in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago that AEW did at the start of the year, and it was better and it had a more dynamic feel, and the crowd was more into it. And it's just like it feels like a much more energized promotion. This just feels like a promotion where a bunch of people are just cashing checks and like just doing whatever the fuck they want. And there's a boss who's just like who doesn't give a shit enough to like tell his talent to do things correctly, and he's stuck in his own ways. It's basically Vince McMahon all over again. So listen, I've been rambling here for a while, but it's because like I knew this AEW show was going to frustrate me. Thanks for tuning in here. Get at me on Twitter. Thanks to all the chats here. You guys were very active in here. I'm going to try and do this for bigger shows. Just AEW kind of sets me off. So it's kind of to do these more in live stream content. It actually, works. So hopefully